What's up, y'all? Today's the 10th of December, 2025. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of InTheImageClothingCompany. Okay, InTheImageClothingCompany, our 5-word company name, if you will, and if you won't too, it's only 5 words. All in one though, okay? Man, let's get into this. Let's talk about why I'm wearing the clothing that I'm wearing, the way that I'm wearing it. This video is on our main side. There are 4 sides to In The Image Clothing Company, and here on our main side, what we really do is allow the human body to work. We come at it through clothing because it's the only thing physically placed on us. The human body is just a mechanical machine placed onto a rock in space. And I want to show something once I'm done with this video on where we're really at with this, as far as how this is what it is, this tripod. Because there's a point to this, okay? There's a actually big reason for this video. We allow the body to work, we do it through clothing. The human body has a center line. The sternum, the spine, the trachea, the nose, and our jaw. The jaw, naturally stabilizing the entire body, is in the center of the body, but it also is, doing a lot more than that. We put a lot of focus and emphasis on the jaw under In The Image Clothing Company, and okay, it's important. The jaw is essentially the shoulder. Look at this, okay? The jaw is directly connected to the shoulders through musculature and tendons. We talk about keeping clothing centered, fitting correct, where we discuss clothing sits for everyone, and being made in all the ways that we can from 100% natural materials. The goal on all 4 sides of In The Image Clothing Company is natural. There's only natural, right? If we eat anything unnatural, we can't extract any nutrients from it, but the body still has to process it through it, all right? Standing, sitting, walking, eating, breathing, sleeping, hydration, everything we do as a human being in our lives, we discuss how to do these things naturally under In The Image Clothing Company. Really, the reason we're a clothing company, the last 2 of our 5-word name, is just because anything that clothes the human body is clothing the human body. With only one way that it could ever work, we have to be very intentional on how we clothe the body, okay? And this isn't it. This brown shirt on top of this more tan shirt, okay? So that's why I said I'll explain why I'm wearing what I'm wearing for this video specifically. The title of this video is The Importance of Snug Collars. Okay. We talk about the anatomy of the human body in depth. We give discussions and we discuss the body and the fact that we're all designed in the image of Jesus Christ. Don't believe me. Don't believe In The Image Clothing Company. We're just here saying what we're saying, but we're founded on truth, because there is only truth. The only way we could have an opinion on something, we stutter through our opinions thinking we know what we're talking about, and we don't. The only way you can have an opinion on something is if there's first something there to have an opinion on. There's always truth before anything else, okay? God, Jesus Christ, the designer of our bodies, there's a universal human design. That's how I can say there is only one way the human body can ever work, could ever work, does ever work. There's only one way this thing actually mechanically operates. It's just a mechanical machine, okay? There's neutrals, 2 rotations from the fingertips up to the elbows and those forearms. Neutral, thumbs up like this with the elbows bent, internal rotation, back to neutral, external rotation, and back to neutral. I'm on a hill, by the way, like a pretty darn steep hill. I'll show once I'm done filming what I'm documenting here. I'll show how this tripod is and how this really is blunt, bold, raw, and real In The Image Clothing Company, doing it as we do it, okay? So, the entire arms, neutral from the thumbs up like this, internal rotation, back to neutral, external rotation, back to neutral. In the lower legs, keep in mind I'm on a pretty steep hill, internal rotation, neutral, external rotation, neutral. Straight forward from that pinky toe, okay? We have different length toes. The big toes on the insides are the longest, the pinky toes on the outsides are the shortest. The feet kind of point forward, up and in like an arrow. We roll off the different length toes with even pressure, and so the feet actually roll in slightly. Pinky toe is forward, just like the pinky finger is forward or neutral for the hand, okay? But the entire leg as well as the lower leg has rotations. Internal rotation and external rotation from the neutral, pinky toe, straight forward There's only one way the human body could ever work. In all the functioning, there's just a neutral to two sides of the function. There's a center line, as we discussed earlier. There's a center line to Earth's gravity in my tripod here, which you'll see. You'll see, stick around. This is my way of giving you a little bit of enticement for you to stick around through the video. I mean, I don't need that. I mean, the video is what it is. It's good information regardless, but it is cool how this came to be, and I'll give a little discussion on how this location came to be for this video. And I just love how real it is. You'll see what I mean, okay? If you stick around to the end of the video. But here's the thing, in all seriousness, that's serious, but this is about the topic of the video's title, okay? Tops are like a cage for the shoulders. That's what we discussed. You know, we talked about just how clothing needs to fit and sit and allow the body to work, because it's impossible to train something that has a neutral. You can't train to a neutral center of gravity. You can't train to a neutral center line to the body. Okay? You can't train to a neutral in rotations. It's literally, physically, legitimately, actually, mechanically impossible to train the human body to get it to do anything. No joke, no opinion, no claim, no new information. This is God's design since the first man, Adam. It's always been the same, and that's why people get it wrong. And this isn't a sales pitch. This is just me speaking the truth. If I never had a company, that's just the truth. You can't train to a neutral. It's physically impossible. You can get stronger in your only neutral positions, but there's only one way that human body could ever work, okay? Truly, no opinion that anyone could have, no claim, don't believe me. But what I will say is, yeah, when we do talk about how tops need to be right at the very edges of the shoulders, and that's essentially them being a cage, locking the shoulders in place from the sides, because since there is a center line to the body, we have musculature connecting from the outside of the shoulder into the center at the sternum in the front, evenly on both sides, and from the outside of the shoulder into the center and the spine, evenly on both sides. And that's how we have our bodies working. There's opposing muscles, there's opposition in all things. The gospel of Jesus Christ, or the good news of God, we discuss how there's opposition in all things. There's only light because there's dark, there's only warmth because there's cold, and there's only, well, internal rotation because there's external rotation, okay, in the body. There's only the wrist coming up because the wrist can go down. There's only a neutral. It's physically impossible to train the body. I couldn't possibly have an opinion on it. But I do have a clothing company, and I am in this for life. Evan Strong as the founder, leader, though, for life of In The Image Clothing Company. Anyway, here we go. Let's talk about it. A lot of things we do is give free modifications in clothing to allow the body to work. Okay? This is a big thing with the tops. We discuss where clothing sits, and it is for everyone. Man, woman, tall, short, skinny, fat, any age, any part of the earth, any time period to ever be. We're all just human beings, okay? And there's no opinion that could be had. There's no physical therapy or chiropractor, workout plan, diet plan, routine of something. Stretching your body won't help either. None of this can happen to get your body to do anything. The only end is allow. God designed it. It only does what it does. Stretch goes the opposite direction of the only way that muscles could ever work. Stretch in clothing is only decades old as of today's date. It just didn't exist. It wasn't even a possibility. Truly, it wasn't. No opinion. I mean, it didn't exist. These unnatural materials that we have that we weave into clothing so that they can stretch, well, all muscle fibers do is fire. They pull together. Muscles just pull two endpoints together. But there are opposing muscles, and so even in what seems like a push, it's actually a pull of two endpoints of a muscle, or multiple insertions, right? There's sometimes 3 insertions or more for certain muscles, but muscles only pull. The human body only pulls. A video under the main site of In The Image Clothing Company here. It's the truth. Again, no new information, no opinion. It is what it is. And what it is noisy where it is, life, and so we are who we are. Authentically as human beings. Ideally, that's all we can be, so that's a good thing to be. Okay? I'm just addressing the noise because I understand. Okay? Here's the thing. There's only one way the human body could ever work. tops for everybody, sit with the top seams of our shoulders behind the peak of our shoulders, because our shoulders only ever work behind our head. That's just where they connect mechanically. The musculature, it connects to the spine and the base of the skull, the muscles that raise the shoulders, and then also the rear of the top of the shoulders is where it connects. And so that's what actually happens, is the shoulders will follow the shoulder seams, and so the shoulder seams just sit behind the shoulders. Okay, we have to have even contraction, right and left, or left and right, because there's a center line, which is our spine, and the jaw stabilizing the entire body is the shoulder, and the shoulders only ever can just do what they do to operate and pull an endpoint to an endpoint of musculature insertions, and that's behind the head. Okay, the shoulders only ever work behind the head. No opinion. No opinion. Okay, people have you training your shoulders up here in front of your head. You can't. That's not how the shoulders work. They work back here. Okay, behind the head. There's only one way the human body could ever work. What we do as In The Image Clothing Company is try to do all that we can, being sinful human beings as we all are, to keep all of our opinions out of anything we do, and that's how it's actually valid and matters. Okay? And so what we have is a lot of videos talking about things like keeping collars centered, because if we've got even musculature opposing the center of the neck, we have to have the collars be centered. Okay? Sometimes we've got seams in the collars. In The Image Clothing Company's dreaded collar seam modification. Okay, these shirts actually both have a collar seam, and it's most common, at least at this time period, location to be placed, the upper left side of the collar, right by this upper left trapezius muscle. Okay, that's just going to cause our collars to be off-centered, okay, and imbalanced. Yeah, so we talk about keeping collars centered, and a big thing that we do with that is the same thing we do on another fourth of us in The Image Clothing Company, poodles. We specialize in purebred standard poodles, but we give information that applies to all dogs on letting dogs stay natural. The same thing as allowing the body to work for human beings. We just phrase it differently because it's the whole fourth of our company specifically for dogs, encapsulated in all that we are. The poodles do what we do on all four sides of In The Image Clothing Company, okay? But letting dogs stay natural is the same as human beings in all the ways, except it's collars, leashes, and harnesses, and these type of things when it comes to the, quote, clothing, unquote, for the dogs. And we talk about interacting with dogs as the owner so that our bodies don't get altered. Things like keeping that neutral wrist when we're holding leashes, the height of dogs versus the height of owners of dogs, okay? Grooming for dogs, and just all the ways of keeping dogs healthy. Okay. We breed purebred standard poodles to further good bloodlines of dogs, show why it's important to have purebred dogs, and in all the ways that we can register our dogs. And just, you know, giving the information we do on being good owners of dogs is how we keep less dogs in shelters and more dogs at homes. And we work with organizations, companies, communities, people doing things, businesses, whatever you want to call it, that are good for dogs, okay? In The Image Clothing Company, that's the thing. We just work with good people doing good things, similar things to us as the company that we are. Very clearly worded, a company, like a community, right? Not a business. We're in this to change lives because we give universal, eternal truths that aren't our opinions to have or our decisions to make. It's nothing to do with us, and that's how it works the best. God's design, okay? So, keeping collars centered, that's a big focus, that's a big thing. We talk about it. We've got a lot of videos where we just, in the videos, discuss collars. They're so huge. In The Image Clothing Company's dreaded collar seam modification, it's one of the biggest things you'll ever do for your entire body. Just meaning anything you could call a seam or an imbalance or discrepancy in the collar of something that should sit evenly around your neck has to be modified to have it sit evenly around the opposing musculature of your neck. Okay, there's only one way the human body could ever work. Videos like the natural scapula position. The scapulas are the big bones on the upper back, okay? There's only one neutral, natural, and normal position for everything in the human body, okay? Same with the dogs. They operate the same as human beings in the sense of just being a mechanical machine with, you know, functions the same as us. Truly, actually, seriously. Most all animals, in a lot of ways, are, well, very similar. Let's say it like that, okay, for this. Anyway, the point is, with that, actually, is a lot of information that we give under In the Image Clothing Company Poodles on letting dogs stay natural applies to a lot of animals, just about all animals, in some ways, in some form of some of the things we say there. So there you go, okay? In the Image Clothing Company, we do a lot of big things, truly, okay? Eternal information is ideally what we're speaking, things that don't ever change and couldn't. So, keeping collars centered. I made a video down in St. George, Utah, where we're actually based. I'm currently in Utah County, but I'm moving down to St. George, Utah to set up base camp for life, okay? As the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, I'm in this for life, which is an episode title of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, another one of our fourths where we have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ. No opinion, no claim, no belief, no religion. We're all human beings, placed on the same earth, designed by one God. We're all the same. So we discuss Jesus Christ as he says that he is under In the Image Clothing Company podcast. We're on episode 188 as of today's date. Check it out if you'd like to. Just good insights on life, right? Experience, personal life experience, universal things, because we all experience very similar things across the globe and in different ways. We're the same, and in the same ways we're different. You know, we're just human beings. Life is just what it is. We discuss it there. Okay, so anyway, what really is neck pain is a video I filmed down there in St. George, Utah about 3.5 weeks ago, give or take, with some beautiful red rocks behind me, and it was awesome. I love it down there, the desert, okay? One of the things we do is poodle parade events. One of the events we have, as in the Image Clothing Company, bring your poodles, purebred of any size or mixed poodles of any size, here to the state of Utah. We'll get people into nature and dogs into nature, get people rooted and grounded, and just have a good time, okay? Yeah, we live up Utah. So we'll span the state of Utah with our events. We'll go to Arizona, Nevada, wherever we do, but those states are very close by St. George, Utah, okay? So, check us out. Okay, we do a lot of things that apply to you. You don't have to care to care. It applies to you. You don't have to care about fashion because it's about the anatomy of the human body and allowing it to work and function. That's why we talked about clothing, as in the Image Clothing Company. But yeah, what really is neck pain? Well, a lot of it is an imbalanced collar. So this is the point of this video here, okay? The importance of snug collars. We've got a lot of importance of videos. We talk about insertions of musculature on each side of the body, the importance of even insertions of muscles, okay? The importance of even sternocleidomastoid insertions are these little muscles that come and connect up right behind the ear to the skull and then down to the sternum in the center and the collarbone, which is the shoulder, okay? And the other end of the collarbone is the peak of the shoulder, where the shoulder seams sit behind evenly, okay, on both sides of our body, because that collarbone just determines where the shoulder goes. We're just pivoting on this collarbone, and that's how our shoulder moves, is where the collarbone comes down to the sternum in the center. It's just pivoting. Okay? There's only one way the human body could ever work, no opinion. I know that we're like not your worldly professional quality company in the ways that you might think of it, and that's intentional. Commanded to be in the world and not of the world. We're disciples of Jesus Christ. We're designed by God himself. Jesus the Christ. Jesus Christ is God. Episode 187, maybe? One of the episodes in the 180s of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. Don't believe me. Let me just say whatever I say, but it applies to you, and it is true if it's aligning with the Word of God. Here's the point. Collars have to stay centered, but they won't if they're not snug, okay? I've got two shirts on. I've got a long sleeve shirt on, and then I also have man, it just hits me. I just get so humbled by what I'm really doing here. I get put in my place, and that's why it's awesome that it's like, who is this kid? I want you to think of me as just some kid speaking some randomness that he has an opinion on, because it's truth. I didn't decide this stuff. Being humbled before God is where we need to be. That's how things work the best. But this brown shirt that I have on with the short sleeves, it's actually a woman's shirt. Oh shoot, cross-dressing, not really. It's for the sake of the visuals. And also, I mean, it fits me in a sense, kind of. But the collar's so big, okay? We need to keep our collars at kind of natural waist, if you will, for the neck. We talk about the natural waist. Where pants sit is above our hips, okay, at what's called our natural waist. It's called the natural waist for a reason. It's just where we bend side to side at the spine. You can't bend side to side at the hips without a leg coming off the ground, okay? That's just how it works mechanically. So with our pants at our natural waist, they sit slightly higher in the front than the rear. That's just how we keep our pelvis neutral. On Earth's gravity, there's houses right here. These people might be wondering if I'm doing a dance routine on the side of this hill. That is not the case. But posterior versus neutral versus anterior versus neutral, posterior, neutral, anterior, neutral, rotations of the pelvis, okay? That's how we keep our pelvis neutral, is by our pants sitting correct, where I just discussed. Above the hips, at the natural waist, and slightly higher in the front. But the thing is, the pants, there's this natural waist, because we've got the hip bone, and then above the hip bone, there's just musculature and just, you know, our side. There's not really all that much musculature there, really. So latissimus dorsi in the back, and the obliques up here, the abdominals in here. There's this, like, natural waist, the natural part between the hip bones at the low end of that natural waist, and then the rib cage at the upper end of that natural waist. And you can carry fat in different ways, and your body can be shaped in different ways through musculature and fat, but there's a universal human design for the skeletal system. All musculature does is operate the skeletal system, and it only pulls, okay? And then, you know, fat just comes and goes. It changes when it does. The fat content in the human body, or any body of flesh and blood and bone and fat, and so it's just what it is. We've got another fourth of us in the Image Clothing Company music. A lot of what gets shown is the sizing and setup of guitar to not alter the body. We talk about just in all aspects of life having fingernails and toenails all the way to the tips of the fingers and toes to back and support them. Cut relatively flat on the tips so we don't roll out of this neutral wrist position. Just, it feels weird with this big of a collar, okay? I wear clothing that fits because I'm the founder of a company that discusses how clothing should fit in the Image Clothing Company. Okay, but this shirt, like I said, it's for the principle. It's for the video. It's a woman's shirt, this brown one. Technically, all right? But it is my size, technically, measurement-wise, other than the collar. But we do a lot on In the Image Clothing Company music, rhythm and poetry, lyricism, spoken word, freestyling things, singing, guitar playing, geared around the gospel of Jesus Christ with the messages. There's a lot of beautiful stuff there if you'd like to check it out. Okay, but this is the point. If we want our tops to be like a cage for the shoulders and lock our shoulders in place at the sides with those edge seams right at the edges of our shoulders, where just the functionality of the joint of the shoulder is, right? It's a joint of material, and it's also a joint of body parts. And so it needs to mesh in the same location as close as we can get it, okay? But if you've got play in a collar, the width of your top at the edge of the side seams can be your proper size, right at the edges of your shoulders. But you can have play coming from now the collar, okay? And so the reason I talked about the natural waist down here where our pants sit, well, it's good to just discuss where pants sit, because that's what we do, is teach people how to allow their body to work, and you have to know where your pants sit in order for that to happen if you're gonna wear pants. But another big point is that natural waist, it's just the natural, like, spot where functionality happens, okay? us bending side to side of the spine. I've said this before, collars of our tops sit at like our natural waist, if you will, for the neck, right? Where these upper trapezius muscles, the muscle that raises and lowers the shoulder, connecting from the top and rear of the shoulder to the spine of the neck, which is the cervical spine, and then the very base of the rear of the skull, and these muscles only pull, the only other end is relaxing, but they raise the shoulders when they pull the endpoints together. And you can just see how the endpoints are being pulled together as my shoulder comes up and in, okay? Pivoting on this collarbone. Wow, truth. There's only one way the human body could ever work. Anybody who's trying to get you to do some kind of like workout routine or something that's opposing the only way that your body physically, mechanically operates, well, it's not gonna work, is the bottom line. We have to know enough to know enough, you know, we have to know enough to be intentional. We really do have to know, to a degree, how our own bodies work, especially in a modern man-made world like we live in, that's placed onto God's natural earth. There's so many things we have to, truly. I put the quotes with my fingers, but we have to, truly. Okay, no quotes that time. We have to modify things, right? In the Image Clothing Company's rotated seam modification, we've got a lot of rotations and seams nowadays, with things being, you know, made by robots. Things aren't stitched by hands of human beings anymore. And so they'll stitch something one direction, they'll flip it around and then stitch it the same direction on the other side, and then that just rotates our whole bodies, okay? Yeah, in the Image Clothing Company's rotated seam modification, both of these two tops have rotated seams from the factory, and I modified them, okay? You have to. Gravity, Earth's gravity, keeping our bodies over Earth's gravity. I mean, that's one of the biggest things we deal with as human beings is just gravity. Okay. Keeping our bodies over Earth's gravity is another video filmed down in St. George, Utah. Beautiful, sunny St. George, Utah. And it was actually raining that week in cloud cover. It was still beautiful. Sunny St. George, Utah. Behind the clouds, there's still the sun. Oh, wow. Literally, right now. Anyway, the point being, gravity, right? If we've got rotations in our clothing, well, rotated clothing and Earth's gravity. Another video title under In the Image Clothing Company's main site here. There's only one way the human body could ever work, and so we can't have rotations happening, but we also just can't have randomly sloshing collars of our tops, you know, side to side. There's musculature that just evenly contracts from the center. The collars not only have to stay centered, but they won't even be able to, is the point, if they're not snug. It's like, you know, let's say we have a nice even pant waistline, but it's just falling down onto our hips all the time, and we just have to pull our pants up because, well, they're sitting evenly left to right, front to back on Earth's gravity and on our bodies' natural waist until they're sliding down below our body's natural waist because they're just too big, you know? It's like a collar. That's what I'm saying. Look at this tan long sleeve shirt I have on underneath this brown short sleeve shirt. It's a female's shirt. It's designed for ladies. I'm a man. I'm a boy. I'm a human being, though. There's only one way the human body could ever work. That's what I'm showing here. This tan shirt has a nice, snug fit around my neck at what we could call the natural waist of the neck. Because these upper trapezius muscles, they come from the outside of the shoulder in, and they curve up like this, and then they go up to the base of the skull. At this like curving part here, just where the motion's going to happen, see how there's like almost a crease, not like a hard crease, but like there's that pretty distinct location where, you know, we'd have something just sitting nicely around our neck. We could call it the natural waist of the neck, okay? And this tan shirt does a good job at staying there, nice and snug around my neck. The importance of snug collars, okay? This brown shirt, it's just too big for my neck because muscles only contract, the human body only pulls. The upper trapezius lifts the shoulder, and they're really the only muscle that do so, really. I mean, let's not get too nitpicky on all the little muscles up in the jaw and the sternocleidomastoid. I mean, essentially, yeah, there's more muscles. Yikes, right? But yeah, all throughout the neck. I get it. But the muscle that really lifts the shoulders, it's that upper trapezius. There's upper trapezius, mid trapezius, and lower trapezius muscles on the back, connecting from the spine out to the shoulder blades, scapulas. Okay. Spine's in the center. There's an even distance, ideally, on Earth's center of gravity between the spine and the scapulas. And those trapezius muscles are what's determining that with their level of contraction, because muscles only pull. Okay. There's only one way the human body could ever work. I discussed the anatomy of the human body in depth as the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. So don't believe me. I mean, there's only one way you're going to have your body operate. All the workouts in the world in an oversized collar, even in a shirt that fits you well at the sides, at the edge seams. But see, this edge seam here is still falling off to the side because of the play in the collar. But yeah, the workouts are void. They don't matter. I mean, there's only one normal to the human being anyway. There's only a neutral, and if you're outside of your neutral anyway, you're just deeply ingraining a patterning on only one end of the only neutral to the human body. I mean, there's only one way the human body could ever work, and so that's what we really do here on the main side of In the Image Clothing Company, is get out of chronic patterning and scar tissue that gets built up in the body in this right-handed world. Okay, 85% give or take of human beings are right-handed. We get into right-handed patternings. Clothing patterns with rotated seams to the right. Well, there you go. Collar seams on the upper left of a collar. There you go. Right-handed patternings. A lot more things. We talk about a lot of things. Ropes introduced to the body. Shoelaces, drawstrings, ribbons around a dress, aprons, things around the hood of a top, an ascot, a scarf. We can get into anything. We could tie a knot in and put it around the body and talk about it as being something that clothes the human being. Well, you know, if it's not evenly horizontal or just evenly opposing the center line, then we're going to damage the body. There's no opinion, no dispute, no startup company. This is the truth. And we're just discussing it. In the Image Clothing Company, I'm in this for life. This is just what it is. It's universal, okay? It could never change either. Truth couldn't. I didn't decide it. We didn't design it. We can't decide it. That's an episode title of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. So, the thing is, man, yeah, the collars, they got to stay centered around the neck, and they just can't if there's play. If there's room for them to move around, they're not going to stay centered. They just couldn't. I mean, look at this, right? Really, ideally, this is sitting more like there, okay? The edge seam of this brown top with the oversized collar, okay? Because this other seam over here is right at the edge of my shoulder. So this one was falling off, though, on the left side, even though the right one was right at the shoulder edge because of the play in the collar, okay? So keeping collars centered, it's only going to happen if collars are snug. Okay, and that's the thing, is I haven't really said this all that much. You know, a little over 14 months into In the Image Clothing Company as of today's date. I haven't really talked about collars needing to stay snug all that much. I've definitely said it at least a few times. But keeping collars centered, it's kind of a given. Once you understand what's happening, it's, you know, if you have a collar that's moving around because it's too big and not snug, it cannot stay centered. I mean, that's just how it will work, okay? And your body won't at that point. There's only one way the human body could ever work. So anyway, there you go. Keeping collars snug. The importance of snug collars. This is the earth. This is Utah. We live up Utah. Utah, the state. in the United States of America. We live up Utah, as in the Image Clothing Company. We'll do a lot in nature. We just do a lot in nature. And we do a lot under the gift of video, okay? And always will. I call it the gift of video because of what I said earlier. This is a permanent, eternal documentation of eternal truth. Doesn't matter what clothing's ever made out of, except it always has to be made out of 100% natural materials in all the ways that we can. Our human bodies are only natural. We're only what we eat. And again, if we eat unnatural things, we can't grow. That's how we went from being a baby to being a full-grown adult. And let me speak for myself, okay, because I am a full-grown adult. But you have to humble yourself and be like a little child to enter the kingdom of heaven. All right, so the point is, the gift of video, you know, eternal documentations, if we're speaking things that never change. It doesn't matter how clothing designs look at any time period ever. It's one of the things I say, you know, when I talk about where clothing sits. For everyone, or every body that has one, or everyone that has a body, anyway, it's always the same at any time period to ever be. Even if designs of clothing change, the human body's functionality never could. Designed in the image of God, God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. God has always been there. He's an unchangeable being, and for him to design us in his image, he had to first look like us. And so no human being will ever look differently than all the other ones that have come before, okay? And so collars just have to stay centered. Collars have to be snug in order to do so, because the body has to have motion. So let's say we just had like a rigid top and it's like not going to be able to move even though it's wider than the neck. Well, still we've got that like natural waist of the upper trapezius muscle, okay? And we just have to have motion in our bodies. So it is what it is, right? Mechanical machine is a thing that has motion. A lot of M's there, right? The truth of all things. Words only mean what words mean. The gospel of Jesus Christ. So there you go. I'll leave it at that for now. Let's look at the tripod. This is the tripod here. It is a thistle that I found on the ground over there. It's a sock that I grabbed out of the vehicle I drove over here, and then it's a short little stake that I stuck the thistle onto. And so here we are in well, this is Spanish Fork, Utah, in Utah County. Anyway, we live up Utah. I'm not gonna show this way all that much because there's just houses here, but this is actually a little, wow, a little slice of heaven. Let's say that. Heaven on earth, sure. It's beautiful, it's awesome. St. George, Utah, though, is where we will be, as in the Image Clothing Company. I just need to move down there first. For me, the founder, to then having the Image Clothing Company be there, okay? Yeah. I'm in this for life, right? I'm the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, but I title it as that. I title myself as that, but meaning also the leader, you know, and the one who does things the way that I do things sometimes, you know, just authentically. That's the point, is we're here to do a lot with poodles. So stick around for the poodles, because they are and always will be such a huge point and part of what and who we are as In the Image Clothing Company. Purebred standard poodles, okay? We give information that applies to all dogs, like I said, though, on letting dogs stay natural. So stick around for it, okay? And there you go. Keep your dog collars snug, okay? That's a big point that I am making in this video. That's part of this video, and the point of making it is, you know, a lot of what we say with human being clothing, or just allowing the body to work for human beings, is the same thing for dogs. And collars are one of those things. It's just the same thing. We don't want a lot of play on the collar of our dogs, right? We keep the collars centered and, you know, have them light and minimal and simplistic in all the ways we can. And, you know, free modifications we show for dog collars as well for In the Image Clothing Company poodles. But, you know, if we can have our dog collars be nice and snug, then they can have the musculature just stay activated on their neck too, right? The base of the dog's skull is the same spine as the tip of its tail. Just like the base of our skull is the same spine as the top of our pelvis. I just thought about something. Let's say this. Our 2 prerequisites, in addition to just where clothing sits, which I talked about where clothing sits in this, but as in the Image Clothing Company, there are things we call prerequisites, 2 of them, just because they're big, but they're kind of, not always there. And yeah, that is the case. They're not always there. But shoelaces, right? We're just weaving ropes across the top of our feet. We call them shoelaces. There's only one way the feet are shaped, with bones, ligaments, tendons, and muscles gripping arches inward at our foundation, opposing the center line and keeping us vertical on Earth's gravity. So in the Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique is just what we title the only way you can weave a rope across the top of your feet without altering your foundation, which is your feet, that then travels up through the rest of your entire body from there, with damage to the only way the human body could ever work. No opinion of mine or anyone's. It's just the truth. Okay, it's God's design, and we design shoes, we design clothing. God designed us, though. Okay, and these things clothe God's design. Same with the dog products, right? God designed the dogs. It's always on the back end. We can only let or allow something to be, letting dogs stay natural, allowing the body of human beings to work, because somebody else designed these things. Okay. But secondly, to shoelacing, our other prerequisite, as in the Image Clothing Company, to not alter the body, is removing all tags from clothing. Tags are one of those things that just didn't even exist decades ago from today's date, like stretch in clothing. And they're either causing a physical gap, changing the body's only working position, and or just not allowing musculature to activate. And the human body can only ever work activated as a whole. Everything's there with a role to play, and no compensation can be had. Everything has an individual role, and it just can't compensate for something else's different role. Okay? So there you go. Lots of videos, hundreds and hundreds of videos as of today's date on multiple different sides of In the Image Clothing Company. And video is always, a big, big, big thing that we do. One of the biggest things that we do. Okay? A lot of it will be in nature. A lot of it will be, going along with that explanation of living up Utah. And, we give information that applies to you, man, and your dog, regardless of if you even care about who we are as a company. See what I mean? So this is a little cemetery. It's Pioneer Heritage Cemetery. Okay. Thank you. My name is Evan Strong, as I said, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company in this forward life. Today is the 10th of December, 2025. So come to St. George, Utah if you want to. It's beautiful down there. Involve yourself. An episode title of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, and also just, we have a lot of events we do where you can personally come. And goodbye.